In this sewing tutorial, I am focusing on foundation paper piecing. Paper piecing designs look very beautiful and interesting, and it's also a great way to get rid of scraps of your favorite fabrics. It also significantly speeds up the process of preparing blocks for quilts. I have included 2 free simple paper piecing patterns to download. You can find the links right under the video. So, I made this reversible placemat. One side is for Thanksgiving and another side is for Christmas, using foundation paper piecing for the first time. And here is the video tutorial so you can easily make it too. When I first heard about foundation paper piecing from my friend and saw the quilt she made, I thought that paper piecing is complicated and time-consuming. How to sew on paper? What is it? I was intrigued for a while, and in the end I decided to try this method. And I am glad I did. It's not complicated at all. It's actually quite simple and allows to make blocks with greatest accuracy. The idea on foundation paper piecing is that you cover a paper shape with fabric, sew the pieces, fabric and paper together, then remove the paper while the fabric block stays intact.
You don't need any specific skills, only a few pieces of fabric, a good pattern and desire to create something special. Plus some inexpensive standard quilting tools you probably already have. Fabric in 9 colors, paper piecing patterns, vellum paper, quilting rulers, rotary cutter, mini iron, fabric glue stick or glue pen, new sewing machine needle, good quality thread, open toe presser foot and of course sewing machine. I would like to add here that it's better to use pieces of fabric in contrast colors to highlight a design. Step 1. I could buy some nice patterns for my paper pieced projects. There are also plenty of free paper piecing patterns, but I decided to create 2 simple foundation piecing patterns myself. Why? Because I wanted it to be simple. Remember, it's my first paper piecing project. I wanted it to be exactly the size I need for my placemat, and it was fun to make. You can download these patterns for free from my blog.
Step 2. Preparing foundation paper for quilting. I was surprised to find out that I can use many types of paper for my paper piecing project. Also, now there are new materials that are used instead of paper, and they don't even have to be torn off later, like embroidery stabilizers, for example. I decided to go with vellum paper, and the main reason for this is that I can easily see the pattern on both sides of this paper, which is very helpful. Try to use the thinnest paper, then it's easier to tear it off from stitched canvas.
To sew a placemat, you need to prepare 4 + 4 identical blocks, which will be sewn together. Print the template in 5 copies for each block, 4 for direct stitching and 1 for cutting fabrics. Step 3. Cut the fabric. Cut one of the copies for each block along the mark lines. I read that you can use just odd pieces of fabric for your paper piecing project and freehand cut fabric roughly larger than your paper pieces. But I found out that I save a lot of fabric and make sewing easier if I pre-cut pieces using my templates with added seam allowances. Cut the required number of shapes from fabric with seam allowances according to the pattern. Use the 5th printed sheet. I just make seam allowances 1/2 inch, not 1/4 inch. It's really easy and fast to do with my quilting ruler and a rotary cutter. I just need to be sure that my fabric shapes are big enough to fit around paper pieces. You can stack up a few pieces of fabric and cut several pieces at once. It's faster this way. After that, I organize everything for easy sewing, placing all the parts into groups corresponding to each number. Step 4. Paper piecing instructions. Now I proceed to the sewing process itself. Change the regular presser foot to open toe presser foot. It's much easier to stitch along the lines with this foot. Make the stitch length very small, like 1.5 millimeters, so you can tear off the paper easier later on. Put the fabric piece number 1 on the wrong side of the paper template, right side up. I mean wrong side to the paper. Note that the edges of the piece go beyond the lines on the paper pattern. This will actually be an allowance for the seam. Well, I did that, but the piece didn't stay. It moved easily, so I decided to use fabric glue stick. Just a little to fix the piece on paper, and it worked magic. The correct placement of the first piece is very important. Then put the second piece right side together with the first and align it around the edge. I used vellum paper, so I could easily see all the lines and numbers through it and adjust the pieces correctly. Next, stitch on the line which you see on the right side of the paper block. Don't sew exactly from point to point. Make the stitch a little bit longer, going 1/4 inch beyond each point. Now fold the block along the first stitching line, already perforated by a needle, and cut off the excess seam allowances, making them 1/4 inch. Very easy to do with this ruler and a rotary cutter. Flip the piece carefully and press over the stitching line. I used my mini iron and it was perfect. I heard that you can do it with a big iron, but then the vellum paper may shrink and your pattern will be distorted. But mini iron is really good. It's getting hot enough for cotton fabric. Similar to sewing the first two parts, add the part after part according to the pattern. Step by step the block will take shape. Sew all the other cut out parts of the block, observing the numbering, keeping everything in order. Step 5. Finishing paper pieced quilt blocks. Once all the pieces are in place, adjust the edges of the blocks. Work around the perimeter to cut off all the excess fabric. But don't cut the paper yet. We will need it to sew the blocks together. Make 3 additional blocks in exactly the same way for each pattern. Next, begin to assemble the blocks, creating a design, and sew all the blocks. To begin with, pin the 2 blocks right sides together. The edges of the paper will serve as a good helper, so the seams will be more even and neat. Repeat with the other 2 blocks. Put the 2 large pieces together afterwards. And what else? Now we need to remember to remove the paper from the inside of our blocks. Just gently tear it off at the seams. That's all.
If you want to sew something in the patchwork style, try this way of sewing on paper. You will be pleasantly surprised by the result because it will be excellent. I don't think I have ever had this accuracy in aligning 7 seams at once exactly in the center. So, if you like this foundation paper piecing tutorial and want to use it for your own project, go to my blog hbury.com to download 2 free patterns. You will find the links under this video. Thank you for taking the time to check out my tutorial. Subscribe to my channel and have an amazing day.